Welcome to this presentation on Elizabethan drama. The goal of this one is to give you an understanding of why the plays sound the way they do, and to get you to see something about the language back then and how it really wasn't very different from how we speak today. All right, this should help get through some of the sort of preconceptions people have when they're going through these plays. All right, so let's get started here. The first thing you're going to notice, and that people usually associate with these plays, is some weird pronouns. All right? Pronouns that we use, I, you, he, she, it, we, plural you, or they, were very similar back then, as this was early modern English. All right? One difference they had was they had different ways of saying you. And if you take Spanish or French, you're certainly familiar with this. In Spanish, you have tú and usted, all right? One is what you use with your friends. Tú tends to be what you say when you're talking to someone who's an equal, and usted is more formal. English used to be the same way, all right? So if you were talking to a friend, you would say thou or thee, and that shows that you have an equal relationship. On the other hand, you could also use it to put somebody down. All right? So thou or thee just mean you, and thy or thine is your. Right? To thine own self be true. Be true to yourself. You or ye, on the other hand, was more formal and used in polite company. And I know that sounds strange because to modern ears, thou and thee sound more formal. But it's not, all right? That's the more casual way of saying it. So whenever you see those words in a play, just replace them with you, and they'll make sense, all right? Next, verbs were a little different back then. And again, if you take Spanish or French, any of the Latin-based languages, this is something you've seen, all right? It's in how you conjugate a verb. And all conjugation means is how the verb changes depending on who's doing the action. Like, I am, you are, he, she, or it is. That's conjugating the verb to be. So, in early modern English, there were slightly different endings. If you was the subject of the sentence, the verb would end in a T. If he, she, or it was the subject of the sentence, it would end in TH. All right, and I'll show you some examples here. So consider this. Modern English. I have, you have, he, she, or it has. Back in Elizabethan times, it would be I have, thou hast, and he, she, or it hath. And you can see the same thing with the verb to do. I do, you do, he, she, or it does. Back then would be I do, thou dost, he, she, or it doth. What happened is, over time, the English language got rid of the differences between first and second person. So I and you have the same verbs. Back then, that wasn't true. So when you see this sort of ending, the ST or the TH, you're probably just looking at a verb as it used to look back then. All right, so here's the next point. When you're reading these plays, it is not how people actually talked, all right? These things are written in poetry, most of them. So when you're reading it, you have to keep that in mind. A lot of people think this is actually how people talked in Elizabethan England. That would be like you thinking that we talk the way a birthday card reads. All right, we don't speak like they speak in Hallmark. All right, that's poetry. It's bad poetry, but it's poetry. All right, so keep that in mind. And now here's some key definitions. When we're talking about poetry, we're talking about shaping language to make it fit a particular form. And it has another layer to it than just conveying basic meaning when we talk. This is what's called verse, and it has three key components. One is rhythm, and you guys should be familiar with these terms through music. Most songs you listen to, by the way, are poetry, right? So a rhythm is a beat, da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. Meter, if you think of the metric system, is a unit of measurement. That's the number of syllables in a line that forms a pattern, all right? And then you have rhyme, and in the case of these things, we're talking about end rhyme, where lines will rhyme with one another. They have the same sound to them, all right? And we'll take this apart bit by bit here. So when we're talking verse, we're talking rhythm, meter, and rhyme, all right? Verse will have some of these parts, or maybe all of them. So, in Midsummer Night's Dream and most Elizabethan plays, you'll find it's written in what's called iambic pentameter. Big words, but the meaning is pretty straightforward here, okay? So, iambic here is the rhythm, the stress in the syllables. And the iambic rhythm is like a heartbeat. It's ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. So that's the sound you'll hear in the play, if you listen carefully. Pentameter is the meter. It's how many syllables you'll see in each line. Pent means 5, like pentagon, pentagram, 5. And meter refers to a metric foot, which is a pair of syllables. So pentameter means 5 times 2, or 10 syllables. A line, take a look at an example of what this iambic pentameter looks like in action. Here is the opening line or lines from the play. Now fair Hippolyta, our nuptial hour draws on apace, for happy days bring in another moon, to continue into the next line. Now, they wouldn't emphasize it quite as much as I did there. It's actually a pretty natural rhythm. When we speak, a lot of times we speak in an iambic pattern, all right? Da-dun, 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 like a heartbeat. I've marked this here. You do a sort of U above the soft syllables and an accent mark over the accented ones. So you can see da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. And I've separated with a line here each syllable. So that's how iambic pentameter would sound. And believe it or not, this actually would help the performers learn their lines because there's a rhythm to it and it can build off of one another. Having this with a pattern to it and sometimes a rhyme helps them with learning the lines. All right. So the poetry, the iambic pentameter in Midsummer Night's Dream can take two forms. The first one is rhymed verse, where the endings of the lines rhyme. And a lot of times this was used in this play in discussions involving love or romantic or magical creatures. Will speak in rhymed verse. Okay? And here's an example. This is from Hermia. By the simplicity of Venus's doves, by that which knitteth souls and prospers loves, and by that fire which burned the Carthage queen when the false Troyan under sail was seen. So up here again, I've marked the 10 syllables and the iambic pattern. So you have the iambic here, the pentameter there, and over here I've marked the rhyme scheme. This is how you mark rhyme scheme. Doves and loves rhyme, so the letter A goes next to those. Queen and scene rhyme, so that gets the next letter. And if this next line down here rhymed with loves, it would get an A next to it. If it didn't rhyme with either, it would get a C next to it, and so it builds, all right? So that is rhymed verse. It has a rhythm, a meter, and a rhyme scheme. The other type of poetry you'll see in the play is blank verse. Much like what we just saw, it has rhythm and meter, but it does not have a rhyme scheme. And you'll see that upper class people in the play generally speak this way. All right? So here, or if there were a sympathy in choice, war, death, or sickness did lay siege to it, making it monotony as a sound, swift as a shadow, short as any dream. Again, you have a rhythm, and you have a meter. I counted out the syllables here. But there's no rhyme scheme. Choice, it, sound, and dream do not rhyme. Right? So that's not easy. You're talking thousands of lines of a play written with a pattern, with rhythm and meter, and a lot of times with a rhyme scheme. That is hard. So how do you do it? You cheat, right? You play around with the language. So here are the three big things they did to cheat. First thing is they would just move words around. All right, like here's a line from the play. This is Aegeus, pretty upset at Lysander. Thou hast sung at her window by moonlight. You have sung at her window by moonlight. Right? Pretty straightforward. But the problem is you don't get the smooth rhythm here. So what they will do is they will move something, and in this case, a prepositional phrase, which is why I had you do some grammar work. Thou hast, here you have the subject, the helping verb, and the main verb. You have sung. And what they've done is moved by moonlight and at her window in between the helping verb and the main verb. And that gives them the iambic rhythm. All right? It's still pentameter. It's still 10 syllables. But by moving a couple prep phrases around, they've now created the rhythm they want. And so sometimes when you're reading the play and something sounds strange, all you have to do is figure out what they moved. Move the prepositional phrase so that it's after whatever it modifies. And we'll do some work with that, so don't worry too much about that right now. I just want you to see that that's what they're doing. The other thing they're going to do is something called eliding, all right? Making a contraction where there wasn't one. So if you have too many syllables in a line, you get rid of one. And you can do that because nobody's really written a dictionary yet, so no one's going to check in on it. So here you have quenched in the chaste beams of the watery moon, and the imperial votaress passed on. Problem is, you've got 11 syllables in each line. So all they're going to do is change how they pronounce some stuff. When you get to this in the text, you'll see it says watery. That's 2 syllables. So now we're down to 10. Votress. Again, now it's just 2 syllables. All right? So you knock out a syllable and you get your rhythm back. All right? You have the sound of it and you have the correct meter to make iambic pentameter. Third thing you do is something we do all the time. You leave out some words. You just drop them. So here, when Oberon and Puck are talking, and Oberon wants Puck to give him the flower, Puck says, aye, here it is. And Oberon says, I pray thee, give it to me. But that's the wrong number of syllables. All right, because here, this whole thing has to add up to 10. I, there, it is. I pray thee, give it to me. We have 11. So you're going to knock one out. I pray thee, give it me. And we do that all the time in normal speaking. Someone sees you, they say, hi, what's up? Right? Not much. Those aren't whole sentences. They're quick phrases. Right? But we know what one another is saying. So they'll do the same thing in the play to chop it down. So, why do this? Why write all this stuff in poetry? And there's a 2-part answer to this. We'll get into it. First off, it's not all poetry. And that's one of the good things about reading this play first, is it shows you that through the text. All right? Poetry is used in specific situations. Upper class people speak in poetry. They speak in blank verse and may use rhymed verse when they're discussing love or romance, or if it's a magical fairy creature, they almost always speak in verse. All right? So that's part of it. And then prose, normal speaking, without meter, rhythm, or rhyme, is used by some of the other characters. All right? And you can tell it's prose because it'll be written like a normal paragraph. The lines aren't capitalized at the start of each one. It's not weirdly spaced. Right? It looks like just normal writing. Low-class people speak that way. All right? You'll see Nick Bottom and all his buddies. They speak like normal, real Elizabethans would have sounded. And here's an example. Here is a scroll of every man's name which is thought fit through all Athens to play in our interlude before the Duke and the Duchess on his wedding day at night. It's just normal speaking. Right? And this makes sense if you look at how the Elizabethans viewed people. They thought everybody was at a set point in society, the great chain of being, for those of you who read about that in the medieval unit. So upper class people had greater control. They could shape the language better than the lower class people, or so it seems in these plays. All right? So that's it. That gives you the basics on the language in the play and why it sounds the way it does. Don't worry about getting all of this right now. All right? We're going to be working on it throughout the play, but this gives you the background you need for us to get started with our work. Thanks for watching, and if you have questions, make sure you post them in that survey you're going to do, and then I'll see you later on for a discussion on this.